What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for the week of October 11th through the 17th of 2021. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, Fixed Air Moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. I appreciate you all so much. I hope that you had a great weekend. Hope you're doing very well. I do want to start this off, first of all, by saying congratulations for making it this far. It's a great way to start it because we've all, in some way, shape, or form in our lives, gone through some of the craziest acceleration of evolution that we probably never thought we would have to go through. So it's a Jupiter Sun trine week, and let's give ourselves some of that love. Let's give ourselves some of the encouragement and the positivity right now because, gosh, we're at such an interesting point in time. It is the middle of October. We're in the final week of Libra season. We're finishing up the final week of Mercury retrograde. We just had Saturn station direct, Pluto station direct last week. So we're getting a lot of energy popping off. There's this inertia. There's this sort of times coming back online. It could have felt like, especially the last few days, there was just sort of a timelessness to our reality. And it's all going to start progressing. And the more that you give yourself that love, give yourself that encouragement for all that you have learned about yourself, that you have learned about the world, whatever it may be, all that knowledge is here to serve you. And kind of that's where the gift is within you taking all of that into your center as we're in this Libra season and finding this middle ground of centeredness in a time where we're going to start to see so much really start marching forward in our outer world. What does that look like in the world? I mean, a lot of what we've already seen, of course. I don't know how much I really need to get into that. It's pretty obvious as we're in Jupiter-Pluto cycle in Capricorn, a Saturn-Pluto cycle in Capricorn, that a lot of what we're seeing here, and with a Pluto stationing direct and at these final degrees of Capricorn, it's going to be power. It's going to be control. It's going to be restriction. It's going to be a push for something, making people do things they don't want to do, which is kind of Capricornian in some ways too, forcing society into a box of what it needs to do to take part in society. So the writing's kind of all on the wall for that, of course, but there's other stuff too, like Pluto direct in Capricorn now at these degrees we've never seen is very powerful for, of course, revolution energy, breakaway energy, kind of over that system energy, if you will. So of course there's so many people that are feeling that and don't want to give up their center, because I think that's the most important part of this week is remembering your wholeness, whole with a W, of course, within you. And not, gosh, there's so many aspects about reality and I guess the writing on the wall that makes it look like you don't have what you're going to need, or if you don't do this, you won't have what you need. And, that's how we're going to be out of balance, is if we really truly believe that whatever it is that is being pushed or mandated, if it's not something you want to do, if it's not resonating with you spiritually, that is a clear as day sign. I mean, we are unlocking superpowers. So if you're not kind of feeling this divinity right now that's around you and kind of trying to encourage you to hold your line, I don't know. I don't know. Because I feel really bad. I'll be honest. There's a lot of people out there right now that don't want to do what they're being told to do. And, of course, this involves putting something in their body that they don't feel comfortable putting in. They don't want to take part in that experiment, that GMI, if you will. So, of course, people are taking a stand. A lot of people are getting out of their job that's about to force it, taking leave. Very smart moves are being played by many people right now, because you have to hold that line and just do it. Whether it is walking away from a job, that job doesn't define you. And this is where the Sun and Mars at detriment and fall can really struggle in Libra, because you can think that you won't have balance or harmony without the relationship to your job, the relationship to your partner, the relationship to your friend, because you won't do something that they want you to do. And that line really is spiritually within you, that you just feel it. You just know. Like at this point, it's very obvious. Like if you haven't wanted to do that particular thing to yourself at this point, you probably aren't that interested. You know, I hate to break it. So yeah, I have a lot of empathy for people that are at this point giving in, because what are you giving in for? The idea that you can't live a sovereign, powerful, balanced, connected life without some physical job? Do you really love that job? Like, you know, you must really love that job. Now, if that's like the apple of your eye and it's everything, you know, maybe that's something that gets put on the scales here in Libra and gets weighed out. And, you know, that's up to every individual. And again, I just want to clarify, if you really do believe that that's the right thing to do, I'm not going to say that that's the wrong thing to do. I just trust what I am being guided to, and I'm definitely on the not side, you know. But again, every situation is a little different. So my situation, of course, is different than other people. So I can't just. But I could tell you that if I was in that position, I would hold my line. Maybe that's the message and why I'm putting it out there. That's what I would do. I mean, that's just where things are looking like they're heading, but it's more than that too. I mean, you got to remember, we are a couple lunations away here. Like we got a full moon here in Aries, and we got a full moon solar eclipse coming in Taurus with the sun in Scorpio and these financial aspects. That is kind of the illusion. And I think that the illusion is what we see propagated more and more this week with the sun and Mars in Quincunx to Neptune. Lots of spelling, lots of propaganda, and lots of the propaganda about if you don't do it, of course, well, you don't get to, you're not going to have a good life, which is false. It's false. You can have a good life. There are so many other options out there. You have to come back to that spiritual divine nature and remember that just because one door closes does not mean that there's no more doors out there for you. This is a powerful time. And I think even with Mercury quincunxing Uranus for the second time in retrograde this week, we have to remember how many doors and how genius we really are, and how we can create things on our own, and how we can, you know, manifest by getting back into our genius. We don't have to do, you know, what we're told that's just the same old, especially if it involves doing something that we don't want to do. And I think that's the, you know, the paradox of this week, or the big kind of aspect, is that we're in full-blown Libra. We're in all planets except Uranus, and of course Chiron, which is an asteroid in the personal signs of Chiron in Aries and Uranus in Taurus, that it's going to be the biggest projection on stuff outside of you, from what governments to school. Like schools are going to be insane with the South Node finishing up in Sag and what they're going to project onto their students. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, something, you know, college football games have been, you know, going on, and a lot of chanting going on, and no mask. Like, I wonder how long that's going to go on. Like, you know, is that going to get shut down? Not that the football game would, but that there can be so many unmasked individuals. Maybe not. But this is, again, like, we're starting to see all the plans of the power grab start to get exposed. And we got to hold our line. And I think that as we see the sun quincunx Neptune and Mars quincunx Neptune this week, I mean, that's definitely the weirdest transit of the week, as we're trying to find this balance through truth and information and delegation and communication. And also having a Mercury retrograde in Libra, definitely like, wait a second, I got to slow down and figure out this relationship stuff. I got to slow down and figure out what these partnerships are like, what this other stuff from other people are in my life, so that I can get back to my center too, and find that beauty, find that balance, and relate with the confidence of expression too, like the confidence to be in your center, the confidence to and to hold that spiritual line, especially with these quincunxes to Neptune, because it is that divine essence that cannot be weighed out on scales, and essentially that's the quincunx to from Pisces to Libra, because Libra wants the facts. It wants to, well, this makes sense, and Pisces is kind of chaotic in a sense that the universe doesn't necessarily make logical sense. Like everybody interprets the universe differently. Like of course a lot of people can fall, into a same similar way, but there's something about the universe inside of us that is just unique to all of us that we connect to, and that presence. And it's hard to completely, relate and justify these things. So I feel like there can be a high anxiety with this transit of like feeling like the outer world just wants you to do something that goes against your soul. And at the same time, there's so much fact that has shown up. I mean, look at all the stuff Project Veritas has done with their investigative reporting. There is so much stuff out there. I mean, gosh, this North Node in Gemini, it brought facts. It brought information. It's just a matter of if you want to go look for it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't want to see information, Like, I'll be honest, I saw a preview for that Fauci documentary on Disney Plus. I'm going to watch it straight up. I haven't yet, but sometime this week, I'm going to watch that documentary because I have to know. We got to be kind of like agents, like 00 agents right now. I want to know what they're pushing. Like, that's going to be some serious propaganda, of course. And I want to know. So even if I was on the other side, I would like kind of want to look at this stuff, but they don't. But people don't want to look at it because South Node Sag. I believe this is the only way. This is the way. This is the truth. Sag is the one ultimate truth. Gemini is, well, guess what? Everybody has their own truth. Got to work with both that axis. Have your truth, have your belief, have your connection, have your intuitive knowing, but also be able to at least look or listen or communicate or talk or take in other information to kind of check yourself and not just get wrecked by your belief, which could be happening. There's a lot of crazy information. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. There's a lot of weird ingredients being injected into people. Don't want to stay on that topic because I think a lot of that topic is keeping people from their center, is keeping people from using their intuitive knowing, and keeping people kind of wrapped up in that part of reality. And I think that part of reality is important to know. And that's why I'm going to watch that documentary. I want to know what that part of reality is hitting with on that scale. Hail Fauci, that kind of stuff. Like what's going on? Kind of like Hitler stuff, right? Like I want to know what the dictator is preaching to people, because people are gonna, of course, like there's gonna be people eating that up and just, anyways. There can be anxiety, back to the Sun and Neptune and Quincunx, just around how to find that center in such a chaotic reality, such a chaotic outer world or with people. And you really want to get back to yourself. This is definitely, it's a highly intuitive time, but it's, a little foggy. It's a little unclear. So you have to tap in. You have to get back into your divine nature, your divinity, your connection, and trust that. And if you're in that space, it's going to be easy. And you're probably going to get so much insight, especially with Venus and Quincunx to Uranus, and even having a Mercury retrograde in general, really having us come back in and reevaluate our own thoughts and what brings us to a balanced and harmonious moment and space and center in our own reality, in our own life, and in our mind, most importantly, as the mind is finally getting caught up with the heart, getting kind of back in a little bit of order. It gets out there kind of far. We've had to take in a lot of information. It's good to come back in and process that information in your own way, which of course Mercury retrograde helps with. And also the karma of people in our lives right now and relationships, with Saturn coming direct, with Venus last week on the South Node, with the Moon. I mean, that was very powerful. That and with a triple conjunction with Mars, Mercury, Cazimi, and the Sun in Libra. I mean, whoa. like that just set off a whole new course of relationship aspects and how we can relate our most authentic self to the world. So again, why I started this off with give yourself a pat on the back is because if you're in that most authentic self and you've kind of freed yourself from what the past karma was and what that was in your relationship to yourself and how you put that out to the world, this is mission, this is dharma, this is like that karma's, it's been dealt with, it's been cleared. And that's the beauty of this time, is that so many people have cleared so much of the heavy karma within themselves that now they have the superpower within themselves to transmute the karma of the collective. That just came out of nowhere, but that is it. There's a collective karma and an individual karma. There's a lot of people that have graduated their individual karma because they held their line, because they trusted. They trusted that, and they trusted their intuition and what felt right to them to bring harmony and balance into their life. And that's the beauty and the weirdness within this quincunx, because for some people are going to be very anxious. They're going to be pushed into a corner because of the Capricorn energy, you know, feeling like an animal backed up and just ready to strike, but maybe just ready to give in too and cower and, you know, kind of take whatever happens next. While some won't. Some will get pushed into that corner, and especially with a Sun Mars conjunction still happening, even though it already happened exact, but they're still together in Libra, you know, really fighting with courage and strength for your own desire to bring that beauty and balance into your life and with your divinity. Definitely a time to pay attention to your dreams, your intuition. It's a big week for that. And you know, that's kind of where we can feel kind of puppeted along. There's a lot of quincunx energy this week. Of course, the Mars quincunx to Uranus, Mercury quincunx to Uranus, but Sun and the Mars quincunx Neptune. And Mars, I think I said the Mars. And Mars quincunx Neptune is not fun. You know, the Sun's one thing that kind of brings it does bring out like a lot of compassion, but it can also bring out some fear internally about like what other people will think because you're not doing what they want you to do. And I think a lot of people are having to deal with that right now, but which makes it even harder with a Mars quincunx Neptune, because we're essentially, you know, paralyzed. You know, Mars is the warrior. Like, he's not necessarily a Marine or a Navy SEAL, and Neptune is definitely deep waters. So we're having to kind of navigate through the storm right now within our persona, within our ego, having to come back in and really act intuitively but not be paralyzed. So really take all that intuition and then do something about it. Don't just say, well, you know, I'm not gonna do what's right for my soul right now because I feel backed up into a corner and I feel like, you know, that it's just too much. There's too much of the chaos, and I don't want to deal with the chaos anymore. You know, it's definitely a time to kind of fight chaos with order, but that order's in the beauty in the center within yourself, and how you can identify with that strength, but also relate that strength with other people. I think that it also just brings up unsurety around like this next stage of the karma or the dharma, when it comes to relating with people, is almost like this, like, what is going on? What is going on? Like, was this the right move? Like, you could be questioning, especially with a Mercury retrograde, we could be questioning things we did last week. We could be questioning conversations, or relating aspects, or of course, this could be the relationship to your job, the relationship to a person, all of that. And you don't want to get too deep into your head and that's where the anxiety would come up, is feeling paralyzed, like you can't continue forward, when really Saturn going direct is like, look, the outer world, society is about to start, and governments, they're about to start moving forward. So you have to move forward as well. And the more you can keep moving forward, the more you're going to bring that beauty in. As long as you're moving forward intuitively, almost like It's less impulsive, of course, with a Mars in Libra, and of course Quincunx Neptune, but it's like moving intuitively. Like you're going to get the synchronicities and the signs, and God's going to show up in beautiful ways to show you the way for you in your personal life. And it's just accepting that and not being scared. It's like we're on this precipice in many of our lives of like having to take a big leap of faith. And that's where the gift is. That's where, the quincunx is like, take the leap of faith and you'll see that the balance was right there all along. You couldn't see what was about to get dropped on the scale that was going to put it into balance for you, but it's there if you can kind of believe in that nature, in that esoteric, wisdom within yourself of the unseen, and realizing that all that stuff that you have done over the last whatever 19 20 months has been accelerated and expedited to get you to this point to use that magic and have that faith with the facts and the information that have come up and presented themselves in your life to make your life more beautiful and harmonious. So we are going to see Venus also sextile Saturn this week from Sagittarius. And, I like Venus in Sagittarius because it wants to explore. It wants to kind of see the fun when it comes to relating. And it's coming off the South Node. So this could be bringing people into our life. It could be kind of like taking people away so that we can kind of have these rise up moments and see like out on the horizon of what is the value of the people that we want to kind of like go on this journey with. And the sextile to Saturn is nice too. So it's nice to get some good aspects to Saturn as it's coming direct, because it's like those relationships that do show up. Like, don't just push stuff away right now. You don't want to just block the goodness because you don't want to kind of jump onto the other side of the unknown, when you can kind of intuitively feel like that's where the most balance and beauty is going to come through. You have to like have the integrity to do it. You have to have the courage. You have to like want to kind of explore what the future could look like in the long term with people. And it's also with money too. Like I mentioned, we're coming into eclipses. We're going to have of course a full moon in Aries coming up, not this week but next week. But the next full moon, of course, after that is a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus on Algol in Scorpio Taurus axis, the financial axis. Like, are you exploring different ways to put your money, to invest your worth, to invest your value for the future? Because that's something that, a lot of people are channeling right now. It's in the astrology all over the place. If you're just going to believe that if you don't do anything financially, it's just going to be fine, it's not. They're starting up a Fed coin. They're going to get rid of the dollar. That's the crazy part. Nobody wants to hear that shit. They're not even going to use the US dollar anymore. It's going to be gone. So don't just hoard that shit as we come in to a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus with all the shit that's going on in Capricorn in the background and think that there isn't an agenda of where things are going. And remember, the US dollar got, it was the Pluto 1976 that started the US dollar in the end. So like we're starting to see like if that currency tied to the United States is even valuable anymore, or is it even worth anything? It's not backed by shit. If you go back and look at the Federal Reserve and all that, it's literally just, it's not backed by silver, it's not backed by gold, none of that. How long is that going to last? So, just want people to know like, you got to kind of look into the future with this Saturn going direct as well, and do just anything, something. Don't get caught, don't get caught with your pants down right now. This is kind of the week where we're seeing where the progression's going. I don't think this is the crazy week. I think next week is a little bit crazier. We do finish off this week with the Sun square Pluto, but I think that's going to be more, that's going to be intense, of course, in the collective, and definitely dealing with a lot of big internal decisions about how to find your deep power and your deep center of authority, and how to use that to bring justice into your life when there's outer forces getting ready to try and take every bit of that. So that's very intense by the end of the week, but Next week in Helio, we have Saturn and Uranus square exact. That's a big deal. And we're also going to have Mars square Pluto. That is intense. Mars is an activator. So yes, the sun is going to square Pluto, and I think that's going to be very intense. And I think we're going to have to go really deep into our souls to find exactly what our center is and how to relate that and how to make good, balanced decisions in our life without just getting caught on a precipice, getting caught like backed up. This is like a big prep week, I feel like. Like you want to prep this week in some way to be centered. It could be just within. It could be kind of acquiring some things too that are going to make the most sense for the future, as well as we deal with Saturn, which is very physical, ruler of Capricorn, and Venus, which Taurus, and Uranus is the dispositor of that Taurus, and it's in square to Saturn, of course, right now too. So the future is an interesting thing when it comes to values and when it comes to money and when it comes to how to get through this unstable reality. But it's a nice sextile, so I think this is where you can make really, really good decisions about who you're relating with into the future and who's going to journey with you on that, and also financial decisions. This is where like maybe you get the call to like finally, if you have not, to just do something for the future instead of getting because you got to remember, like, Aquarius holds like future sort of energy. It's channeling into where things are progressing. You got to get into that space, and then in the now moment, of course, the now is ever so important. Kind of do things that position you. Whether it's Bitcoin, all the big banks are getting out of the stock market. Some are getting out of gold. Some are getting into crypto. A lot are getting into crypto. Some are getting into gold. Some are getting out of it. Some are getting a lot are getting into silver. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here, and there's other things going on too. But yeah, that sort of like, you might want to expand what you want to be responsible about with money now. Just saying, it's that time of the year where especially as we close out this year and come into a South Node Scorpio and a North Node in Taurus, you're going to want to be self-sufficient. You're not going to want to get handouts. The handouts are going to be a trap. And be straight up with you. Everybody's going to be looking for something from that Pluto in Capricorn to make it feel secure, or to make them feel secure, I should say. And you got to remember, like, you got to take care of yourself right now, and you got to have the right connections and the right people in your life to feel secure, because that's it. This is not a time to rely on government for help as we come into next year with that nodal switch. And the eclipse, like I mentioned, the lunar eclipse in Taurus, that's a big one too. So that's like a precursor to these nodes shifting in many ways. And I think, honestly, seeing that eclipse happen on Algol, which is the demon star, kind of has that like too much good stuff energy. You're going to see very interesting money things happen. And you might see some sort of like moves in markets go down by the time we get to that one. So again, this is like that precursor, because the greed is still a thing. There's greed in this reality, and people with like Four of Coins energy, like holding on to they want more of it. They want to hold more, and they will straight wreck people to get it. And that's likely what's going to happen. And then it's going into Fed coin. And guess what the Fed coin is? It's a social credit score. So I don't know how that affects people in other countries, but that's where the United States is heading. So this is where you're going to want to have something that's worth something, or you're going to be in that system, which is... Look up how China runs their social credit score and their system, and how everything's on their phone. And if you jaywalk, you might not be able to get a taxi or ride a bus or go for a walk to the park without getting in trouble, because they know that you didn't obey every little thing they told you to, and you get docked on your social score, and they take away your rights more and more and more and more and more. It's not fun. It is not fun at all. It's not freedom. I tend to believe within my soul that the United States is going to somehow, enough people are going to eventually say F that. And we're going to figure it out because of the Pluto return and all the exposure that it's going to bring, that's already being exposed, but more and more is going to come out, which is scary for the people that took the experiment, because we're just starting to see sort of the longer term. Like, we don't have long term, what are the long term side effects? Nobody knows. All the animal trials, they were shit. So we're going to start to see some of that, and you get that mixed with a South Node in Scorpio, which is, hate to say it, but that's death energy. I hate to break it to you. That's just, I don't make up the rules for Scorpio energy. It just is what it is. It's entries and exits. That's a nicer way to put it. So something to pay attention to, and you definitely want to pay attention to what you're doing with your values right now, physical values, as well as, of course, having your inner value locked and loaded to make powerful and intuitive decisions, because that's what this week I think is about, is the prep and trusting the intuition to get there. Now, that's a great aspect, Venus sextile Saturn, but really, this week is a Sun trine Jupiter week. That is really nice. However, the Sun's going to trine that Jupiter when Jupiter's stationed and not direct. So we're not going to see the gifts externally. We're not going to see Santa Claus just show up and, I don't think something amazing is going to come down and be like, woo, here you go, collective. Use this information to get into your future and to bring balance and justice to all. No, it's not that. But it's internal with a Jupiter retrograde. This is where the greatest abundance is, you tapping in to where your future is going and how to bring justice and balance into your life by listening to your intuition, by listening to your inner knowing, and how to channel that energy into relationships that are built for the future, into your values that are built for the future, and really connecting dots. So it's not so much the outer world is going to just maybe connect all the dots for you, but I think internally this week, the great gift this week is where you're going to be able to justify what does make sense to you, but it's going to be all intuitive. You're going to have to go really listen to the signs and see what's showing up, and all those decisions that you make about what shows up, and just trusting kind of that gut here, with the facts that have presented themselves too. That's everything. That's the gift. That's going to help you go into the future. And that's what Jupiter's trying to help us with right now. But Jupiter, we have to remember, it's going to go direct on Sunday, the 17th. But all Jupiter's doing here in Aquarius is amplifying this very strong Saturn in Aquarius, which is pushing for this totalitarian, authoritarian control of the collective. And it's not even just about the one government. We're seeing a one world sort of government try and push this on to people. It hasn't fully taken over in the United States, although of course we're seeing it, thing after thing. Domestic travel is getting weirder and weirder, South Node and Sag. So Jupiter is going to blow up this whole scheme, this whole thing. So we're in a very interesting time, especially moving into next week. But the gift really is your intuitive knowing. It's how you can channel into what is going to be the most balanced and beautiful center and harmonious places with the people that you can relate with. If things show up that are trying to make you do something that takes you from your center and takes you out of balance, that's the sign. Would you think that God would just come through and make you do something like that? I mean, you could say that is kind of what's happening, but that's dark. The dark is always in battle. And we are going to see Venus and Antares this week. That's another, big aspect. We've seen so much of Antares and Aldebaran with the nodes recently this year. Of course, Antares is at 10 degrees of Sagittarius. Aldebaran is in opposition to that at 10 degrees of Gemini. But we're at that place where we can see some really dark energy try and make some moves to take values away, to take people out of their center, to not trust their knowing, to not trust, the information that has really divinely found people. It's like you kind of get into a zone, and honestly, sometimes thank God algorithms exist on the internet, because they really do help people find stuff that they're interested in. So if you were intuitively guided to truth and finding, what's really going on, well, guess what? You get that. Like, it's pretty simple. That's where you still have to look at the other side. That's why I'm going to watch that Fauci documentary. Like, I got to see what's on the other side too, because I definitely don't get a ton of that information just dropped in my lap. I have to go to CNN, I got to look. I got to go see what they're doing and be like, yeah, that's trash. you know So there's this essence of this dark energy that's trying to manipulate and trying to come in and make us feel backed into a corner to do things that take us out of our center. And we have to remember our light. We have to remember that divine knowing that we do have, and trust that if we have to make big decisions, but our gut and everything inside of us, our soul, is telling us that, that's a certain thing isn't right for how we move forward, this is the week where you got to trust that over everything else, and, kind of get out of the illusion that whatever it is that they're trying to use against you, to make you do something, is definitely that karmic cycle ran its course already, as we're seeing this really beautiful new karmic or dharmic cycle. I don't know if it's really a dharmic cycle. I feel like it's just people have done so much karmic work that they're in such a dharmic state, if you will, which is really like that divine mission, for what the path is, what the whole, what the shebang was this go around, living here in this physical world. And of course, with that, we're going to see the trine with Venus over to Chiron, which is pretty nice in itself. Chiron retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries. And we're going to see Mercury at the same time, not exactly oppose this Chiron, because Chiron's about to come to 9 degrees in retrograde, and Mercury will station at 10 degrees of Libra, but very, close orb. And of course, that Mercury will be in sextile to Venus as well. We just got such a beautiful message. Like, that's the thing, is like our mind is like sharp after a Mercury retrograde. Like, people trip on Mercury retrograde, but it's so good for us to come back and figure these things out. So this is where we, not only that, but this final week of Mercury retrograde, because it will go direct on the 18th. Like, right after Jupiter, hours after Jupiter goes direct, we get the higher mind and the lower mind going direct. I mean, this is a big deal. It's a very big deal, because through this great transformation that we're seeing, and where this is all going, which is what the sun, I would say this week, square Pluto, right as Jupiter goes direct, is trying to, uncover and show us. Jupiter's like, the whole time, everything that you needed was right within you to connect to the greatest, reality of how you can progress forward, with your freedom and your liberty and your justice and all of that beauty that comes with that as a sovereign being. And Mercury is like, yep, you figured it all out. You figured out how to relate in your most authentic self. And whatever, wasn't that truth is no longer there, because if you stay in what isn't authentic, this is where you're way out of balance. And so that's a tough one. I will say, because this just came up, because I was thinking when I said that of Libra, and it rules the kidneys, and that's how you kind of stay in balance if you have healthy kidneys in a lot of ways. Drinking with the Sun and Mars, Quincunx, Neptune, drugs, escaping. This can definitely be a time where people want to escape. You don't want to escape. You do not want to go too far. Definitely, if you feel called to something that's medicinal in some ways, understandable, but again, ask your gut if it's the right thing to do in the moment. This is where you can see a lot of that stuff go bad. Escaping is going to be, people are just going to want to like peace out. Too much pressure, too much anxiety, and they're just going to check out. So very interesting there. And I just want to say, like, you want to channel that energy into something that isn't just, there's got to be some sort of groundedness. I mean, we're only seeing Uranus and Pluto in Earth right now. So, we got to stay grounded some way, shape, or form in these times, and not just, zip off, because I don't want to, maybe that warning's not necessary because everybody needs to, do their own thing and have their own experiences, but it's like escaping's not going to get you very far. I guess that's maybe the big thing. Instead of worrying about, what would happen, just if you're not being present and using all the information and the truth that you have found to balance your life out and to make sense of these things, like just running away or just piecing out or checking out of reality isn't going to do it. So I want to put that out there. And we do get the first quarter square of the moon to start off the week in Capricorn. And it's going to be, right there with Pluto. Like, kind of like getting there. So a lot of this is like really getting into that deeper aspect of really our deepest sort of intuitive place of security within ourselves, and just relating that most authentic version of it. And the more that you're not just putting on a mask or doing what you're told or being forced into something you don't want to do, you're going to see the balance and the beauty show up. And it's just, there's a lot of this week that's about just doing it, just doing the work, just doing the things that are going to make your life better, and to stop weighing out things that don't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. It's simple. Like, that's the easiest way to put it. Like, you don't want to sit there on these scales right now and just be like, well, I don't really want to do it, but if I don't do it, this will happen. Like, yeah, I get it. Saturn's back online. We have to be responsible, but I really ask yourself if you're being responsible for something that's actually serving you, and spiritually too, because the quincunx with the sun and Mars to Neptune, like, you have to remember, like, what's spiritually fulfilling your identification and your creative outlets in life right now. Everything else almost, doesn't matter, because it's going through the biggest transformation and shattering of every bit of reality that we've ever seen. So the idea of listening to the narrative that you don't get to go to a job you like because you won't get something is absurd, because who knows if that job will even be a thing down the road. It could get completely wiped out by fucking robots. I don't know, but these are things that you have to consider. Like, is that even going to be a thing? Is this even going to be a job in the future? These are the times we're in. So overall, I mean, I do like this week. I think that this is kind of like our first look. Like, we've been in the lobby, and it's been a pretty intense lobby, like hanging out in the foyer, getting ready to go into the stadium. And this is, I feel like, our first step into what this stadium and what this great show is going to look like in the outer world, as we're about to see so much energy over the next 6 months here in these outer personal signs of Libra through Pisces. And what is that gonna show us? And I think that there's something about the liberation to be in your authentic value system and to do things your way, in a different way, and to link up with people that are on a similar vibe is so helpful as we're relating right now. But as long as you're in your most authentic version of yourself and giving yourself all the love for being in that, and just staying in that vibration and not going into some fear or doubt that you need to do something that your soul's telling you not to do, because that's what I feel like I would say is coming the most of. It's just more fear about you're going to have to do something you don't want to do or else. And that's going to be a lot of the show, but the bigger show is all the Capricorn stuff. You got to remember, there's a lot of power in the world. There's definitely that aspect of our reality. And what does that power want to do? And what are they trying to do? And if you start looking around, you can see that a lot of it has to do with financials and things changing around that arena. So you kind of got to make sure you're doing what's best for you and what's going to make you feel sustained without giving up your value of yourself and your body and your freedom and your, literally like your sovereignty as a being, to make choices for yourself. Because again, that's the biggest and hardest part about this week, is there's going to be propaganda to make you do, or not to make you, but you don't have to do, that's the big thing. You don't have to do shit that you don't want to do. That's the biggest lie ever. And this is where we're going to start to, in my opinion, what I'm seeing and channeling right now is this is where we start to see more of, you're going to have to do what you don't want to do if you want to live in this society. But how bad do you really want to live in that society? And will that society even look like you think it is going to look? Or will it even look like what it used to look like that you're attached to? So we have to get over some of our attachment to what things were. Because I've mentioned before, that world's done. It's over. It's done. Sorry. And that's what this Aquarius energy is teaching us too, is we have to look into the future. We cannot just stay in the past right now, as Pluto is eroding that mountain that we're climbing up. We're at the peak. We're so close to the top, and we should be so satisfied with ourselves for making it this far. But, as the ground starts to erode, do you have what it takes to keep going and to make those hard decisions, to hold your ground and to hold your character and your integrity right now? Because that's where the true gift is. It's so much of where we're at now is about how you relate to yourself, and are you willing to hold that line and that wholeness and that balance and that justice, no matter what the outer world does. And to not lose that sight and to not lose track of your own sovereignty and your own self. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is, this is my channeled show. I definitely I channel the charts too during the week, but I never know what I'm going to say before I turn on this camera. It's never like your standard textbook stuff. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that it resonates and that you're willing to do whatever it is necessary to benefit you in these times, and to hold your line and your beauty, and to relate that with the right people in your life, and to not be a pushover. Because you know what Mars aspects to Neptune are? That's someone who's a pushover, someone who has no identification of self, and it's already a weak Mars in detriment in Libra. You're not a weak person. You have so much power in your soul. You have so much power in your identification of what can bring you justice and beauty into your life. And the sun's trying to show us too that we can create that. We can bring those visions out by knowing our beauty and making the justified decisions to have what is going to give you that. But there's also this like, I can't do it. I'm being told to do this and I just have to. You've made it so far. It's just not a time to be weak now. So give yourself some love. And I know that 99% of the people that watch this video over the next week are not going to give in. And if, people do, I'm not judging anybody. I do want to say that. This isn't about judgment. This is about a message. And if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate. It's just what comes through. I love you all. I do want to give a shout out to David Palmer, the Leo King. Appreciate you, brother. Alex Coyote Star, I appreciate you. Great astrologers, as you guys know. Robert Phoenix is the man, always bringing the truth. 15minutesoflame.com. And Christopher Witecki, always bringing that light and always being a light worker every day. Love them. And I love you all very much. Card for the week is the Lover's Reverse. I think this is definitely saying that, yes, we're in a time of relationships. Yes, we're seeing karmic relationships come in. We're seeing them come out. But you know what? This is where you really have to go inside and make sure that your number one priority is your relationship to yourself. And as long as you have that locked down, everything outside is going to come as that reflection of yourself. So don't look outside for people to save you or bring you something you need. This is the most powerful time of our lives to make sure that we're finding beauty and justice within ourselves, and to relate that to the world so that we can get that back and have that energy come in. And this is where, your divine, soulmate, your twin flame is, it's been you the whole time. It's been you the whole time. So give yourself all the love, because you deserve it from yourself, and that's what's going to bring more of that back into your life with people, and that's what's going to bring more of that into your life with the society that you choose to be a part of, because you don't have to be a part of any society that tells you that you have to do a certain thing to be a part of it. We are sovereign beings, and consciousness has brought us to this point now. There's no turning back. I love you all very much. Have a beautiful week, and I will catch you next time. Peace.